people are really struggling to get a good grasp of their security controls, what they have in place, how they can improve their situation. I'd say 70 to 80% of our client base and our partner opportunities that are coming in are all around some aspect of security and either maintaining controls, investing in new tools, optimizing the tools they already have in place. What we're seeing the most of is people have invested in tools, they've invested in a process and a methodology, but they're not quite 100% there. So helping people kind of close the gap, we're seeing a lot of projects along that line.
Hey everybody, and welcome to the Incident Report presented by Quest Technology Management. I'm Paul Burke, Director of Technology Communications. Every week, I'm joined by VP of Sales and Partnerships, Adam Burke. The Incident Report brings you conversations with thought leaders, business innovators, and channel mavericks to help you stay productive and agile in a changing technology landscape. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Incident Report. I'm your host, Paul Burke. Well, to be honest, I'm one of your hosts. Across from me, Adam Burke. How are you doing?
Good, Paul. Excited to be here. We are in the fall season. The pumpkin spice lattes are out in full effect, and it's a magical time of year. I love the fall. I love football. Not a huge fan of pumpkin spice, but it comes with the territory, and I'm excited to be here.
And Adam, I hear in Arizona, fall is a magical time where just all the leaves are falling off the cactuses.
Not a lot of leaves in the desert, but you do get some green in between the brown cracks. The temperature hasn't dropped yet, so we were still up in the hundreds over the weekend. We'll get to that later, but not quite the autumn you're experiencing in the rest of the country.
Oh, Adam, you're painting a beautiful fall picture, sipping on pumpkin spice, trying not to sweat to death out in the desert. But seriously, did you have a good weekend?
I did have a good weekend. Had some soccer activities, some soccer tournaments. It's that magical time of year where you spend, 12 hours out in the sun attempting not to get skin cancer while watching your young ones play soccer, which is fantastic. Any swim parents will appreciate that as well, or soccer parents. So it's a good time.
The important thing is you survived, you're here, and this is the Incident Report, and we're talking stories that we think you need to know that are happening in the channel. First up, a story from Channel Partner Insights about which 3 technology areas are mid-sized enterprises prioritizing for investment. Analyst Gartner surveyed CIOs and IT leaders to find out which technologies are taking precedence. Security and risk management takes the cake as number 1 priority for technology investment in 2022, according to the research.
Yeah, this is in line with what we're seeing, anecdotally from our account base and from our clients. People are really struggling to get a good grasp of their security controls, what they have in place, how they can improve their situation. I'd say, 70 to 80% of our client base and our partner opportunities that are coming in are all around some aspect of security and either maintaining controls, investing in new tools, optimizing the tools they already have in place. That one not surprisingly, but that one is probably, what we're seeing the most of is people have invested in tools, they've invested in a process and a methodology, but they're not quite 100% there. So helping people kind of close the gap, we're seeing a lot of projects along that line.
So 79 of the 134 respondents said security and risk management was their number 1 priority, which you just mentioned 75 to 80%. That pretty much falls in line exactly with what you're seeing.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of that. It's the unknown, and it's probably the most impactful area to a business that is an immediate threat, right? You kind of have to figure out in your investment strategy, okay, what am I going to deal with? Well, dealing with something that could take your company out is probably a high priority for anyone who has responsibility of protecting an enterprise. So it makes sense that, with how fast the landscape and threats are changing, people are investing in that. And it's not always a product conversation. We constantly are talking with partners and folks about having that capability conversation. What are you trying to achieve with the tool sets you have? And sometimes it's just a process improvement. Sometimes it's just putting in the right controls and having that open dialogue and not being afraid to, not know everything is a very powerful way to engage there.
Adam, I think it's safe to say the landscape is changing faster than alliances in Middle Earth on the Rings of Power.
I fell asleep during the last Middle Earth one, man. I don't know what it is. I gotta drink some more coffee. I'm not sure if I have enough time to nerd out effectively on these shows, but
Adam, listen, I have to be honest. Don't blame yourself. I finally got around to watching the first episode. I don't know. Jury's out. I got to keep trying, but it took me 3 sittings to finish that first episode. Not a great sign. But I'm sorry. I'm distracting us. We can talk about Rings of Power later. Let's focus on the story.
that's okay. Anytime a segue into Middle Earth, and don't spoil the dragons thing for me. I didn't watch the Reign of Fire episode last night either, so I'm behind. I'm way behind on my nerd knobs with the HBO and Amazon Prime episodes.
Okay, I won't ruin anything. I'll keep my secrets, but I will share this. Adam, number 2 on this survey, the second most important thing on this survey was data analytics, management, and integration. ERPs, CRM, HRs, and other vertical specific apps.
I'm excited about this. I don't know if it's confirmation bias. It might be confirmation bias. You come up with a theory and then you go out there and you look for things that make you feel better about your theory.
That's what all the best scientists are doing, Adam.
Well, that is trust the science, Paul. Not going down that path, but that is, within Quest, some strategic initiatives that we've made and things that we're seeing is in application development. That's with the cybersecurity, that's probably one of our fastest growing verticals. And it's around automation. It's around tying diverse systems together and doing more with less. That could be, less subscription, less investment, doing more, getting more business outcome with less investment and cost. And you can do that through automation. So it's really cool to see. And that's what we're seeing. So again, confirmation bias, we kind of invest in our DevOps and our Agile and application development practices, but we are seeing that growth. It's exciting. And not to be a Debbie Downer here, but we are going into a recession, and sometimes in recessions, you need to figure out how to do more with less, how to do things differently. And application development, integration, mining your data better and more effectively is a great way for these organizations to get more out of their existing environments. And it's cool to see that that's echoed here in this study.
The article did make me laugh because Gartner noted technology leaders are facing inflationary headwinds as they head into 2023 budgeting season, which made me laugh because I like the idea that somebody read this article and was like, inflation? I haven't heard a thing about this. What's happening?
Yeah. I'm not sure what rock you've been under, but yeah, there's a couple inflation headwinds could be going on. That's inflation hurricane. But
also, another important, Adam, if you don't know how to run business, this article is going to help you. The most common response to inflation among MSE CEOs was to increase prices, followed by cost optimization efforts. So, Adam, if you're wondering, how do I overcome inflation? Raise prices and then optimize. Although I don't know what other options you have other than just like closing the doors and being like, well, it's been a great run. See you guys later.
Well, I was listening to a person in the retail industry, a restaurant, and kind of a large conglomerate, and he was actually saying that same store sales this year versus this quarter versus last quarter, they're actually up. Same store sales as compared to last quarter in 2020, Q3 in 2021 versus 2022. 2022 is doing better, but the margins are a little more compressed. And he's saying, really pay attention if you're looking at the signals out there, and we're always watching as much as we can because we have clients in healthcare, we have clients in retail, we have clients in manufacturing. So the same store sales, the margins, they may have increased by 3 to 5% in the retail space, but the margins have compressed pretty significantly. So what'll happen is if those same store sales go to neutral or negative, the margins could be gone. Right. So then you got to make a decision about, okay, are we shutting down stores? Are we laying people off? Are we cutting workforce? What are we doing? Are we changing our distribution model? All those things come into effect. Our economy is built for like a couple percentage points fluctuation one way or the other. We're going beyond that couple percentage points of fluctuation, and people are going to be having to make some pretty tough choices here in the next couple quarters. So application integration, modernization of your workforce and of your ways to deliver and doing things a little bit differently it's smart that these CIOs are investing in that for sure.
So great article, worth your time. Link is in the description, and we hope you get a lot out of it. Adam, you mentioned that you wanted to talk about the hurricane moving towards Florida and how it relates to disaster recovery and business continuity planning.
I was reading up on the path of the hurricane right now, and we've been in business continuity and disaster recovery planning for a long time, 20 years, helping organizations plan for, optimize, and basically set up their systems to recover in the event of a disaster. And I got to thinking that the hurricane's going to hit Florida. It's going to hit on the west side of Florida and then roll up into some of the Gulf states and through Georgia and things like that. Right there next to the little news story about the impending hurricane was another news story about how the housing market was significantly, some estimates 60% influenced by the work from home and the remote work phenomenon that's happened over the last couple of years. And it got me thinking that, traditionally when we're doing business continuity planning, the legacy way of doing it and the way that a lot of the systems and the frameworks have been built have been around the idea of you lose access to your critical data center or your applications. You lose access to your primary facilities of operations, so your people can't get to those facilities, or you lose access to your people, right? So you can have a pandemic and people get sick and can't come in the office. There could be a fire at your main office and it goes away, or you lose access to critical systems.
Mm-hmm.
This whole remote workforce phenomenon has shuffled things up a little bit in the sense that you might have very critical people living in Tampa or in Tallahassee or somewhere else where this hurricane might make landfall, who are critical people who help operate, manage, maintain, and support infrastructure or organizations or IT departments all over the Eastern Seaboard or even the United States, right? So you have people who traditionally lived and operate in Manhattan. Mm-hmm. We've seen people, evacuate and flee from the cities over the last couple of years and move to places like Florida and Texas and things like that. Now, what do these natural disasters do when, traditionally you don't plan for, your key people to be living in Florida when you're headquartered in Manhattan, but a giant hurricane is barreling down on maybe some folks who have to evacuate or it kind of mixed. And I have no answer to this personally. I thought it was interesting to talk about, like, hey, this is a new dynamic. We've never seen this before. We haven't had Quest has always had remote workers. We've always had people who work remotely, but from our client standpoint, we saw a dramatic shift of people moving to a remote workforce. So how is that planned for? How is that managed? How is that optimized? How is that going to happen for folks that are living in Florida, supporting infrastructure in New York? I think there's probably great strategies out there around remote connectivity and work from anywhere. But I think to me, it sparked a little bit of interest, like, that's a different scenario these days.
That's interesting. I'd never thought of it from that perspective, that the people there might be working for clients everywhere. And so this local event has potentially global ramifications in a way that it never has in the past, but in ways that working from home and remotely have now created.
Yeah, because you can. So a small minute example has nothing of the scale of a hurricane. I hope everyone's safe and stays safe. Over the weekend, we mentioned earlier that I went to a soccer tournament, and at this soccer tournament, we had some humidity in Arizona over this weekend. So in humidity, anything over 5%, moisture in the air in Arizona is relatively humid, but it was up at 35%, and it was a little over 100 degrees. And we're at a huge soccer complex, and the situation is this place is probably about an hour and a half, 2-hour drive from the homestead. Okay, so we're committed to this location, and it's out in the middle of nowhere. And so a lot of people who are there are committed, and there are thousands of people at this soccer tournament. And it's an amazing facility in kind of the southeast valley of the Phoenix Metroplex, but it is deep. It is deep into the desert wilderness, but amazing facility, 20 plus fields, softball fields, a huge complex. They have a sports bar there, lots of restaurants, all sorts of stuff. Well, I don't know if they didn't plan for it. I don't know if they were saturated with participants or what, but the network completely goes down. Like, there is no internet connectivity whatsoever.
Oh no.
Yeah, I noticed this at my daughter's first game. I'm like, huh, that's weird. I'm kind of searching for places to go grab lunch or whatever. And all right, well, it's 105 degrees and we got some humidity, and mom and dad are down to watch the games with the kids. And mom, she's never going to complain about anything, but she'll just sit there and her organs will slowly boil while we're out there in the sun. But like, I'm like, hey, let's go get some AC. Let's go get some lunch. I think I saw a sports place over there. So we go and we snag a table. We walk in. It's a great complex. I mean, I think like, the guy from Jurassic Park spared no expense. It was a great facility. And there's probably 500 people inside this restaurant, and they have seating for probably 1,500, but the computers are down. And something that happened at this environment where we're there is the computers are down. Everyone's sitting inside sucking up the AC, and they're not taking anybody's money. You got families, you got parents who are isolated in the middle of the desert. Everybody's hot. There's a full bar. They got Cokes. You could charge $5 a Coke. Anybody would pay for it. I mean, you could make some serious money, but because the internet was down, they didn't have access to their point of sale application, and they had no plan as far as like, how am I going to get the money out of these people's pockets into my cash register and give them, good food, take their order, give them drinks, and I mean, they were probably losing thousands of dollars every 20 minutes just because they didn't have that plan in place with a saturated environment. And small example of business continuity and DR, but it was amazing lost opportunity because they just, we ended up having to pack up and we went and drove a half hour to go find some sandwiches, but it was a huge lost opportunity, huge revenue miss.
Okay, so I'm curious, did you have this revelation while the whole world was falling apart around you?
As we're walking out at the end of the day, I was curious because mom and dad were there, and I was talking to Pops about who makes the call about losing revenue at a situation like that. Like, how many layers of management are in between, like the idea of, hey guys, we have a captive audience here that would love some food and would probably pay good money to get food, as well as, I mean, they had a full bar. I mean, not saying, everyone's going to, light the town on fire, but this guy over here will gladly pay you $12 for that Blue Moon on tap you got right there with a nice little slice of orange in there for him. I mean, it was 11 o'clock. It's a Saturday.
You wanted an auction, somebody holding up just a bottle of Blue Moon and being like, how much? You, sir, $12. I have $12. How about you in the back? 14.
Well, I was more curious, like, who makes that decision? Because it was like the point of sale application went down, the internet was down, and now we're done. We're not going to do anything. Like we talk about dichotomy of leadership and Jocko Willink and decentralized command. Who at that restaurant had the command authority to be like, hey guys, I know the point of sale is down, but beers are $5, burgers are $10, and Cokes are $3. Let's start moving some weight here. I don't know who makes that call. I think sometimes there's so many layers of management that can get layered on, but when stuff actually hits the fan, who's and I hate this word, who's empowered to actually make the decision?
Yeah, the buck stops with who, Adam? That's another.
Yes. Who does the buck stop with? And that's critical to know in a disaster scenario, because someone's got to step up and make a decision. Because you got a bunch of hangry, 8 to 10-year-olds, in between soccer tournaments. You got to feed the beast, man. Feed the beast.
Did you see people start to panic that they couldn't get access to food or drinks? Like, because at Costco, there is like a weird panic that you can see kind of set in amongst people when it's so crowded. And it's like, calm down. We're all going to be fine. We have a system. The system's in place. But it is kind of interesting when a couple people panic, how it kind of starts to trickle out into amongst everybody.
Yeah, it was as the escalation of needs, right? So once people got inside and got out of the heat and were in the AC, there was about 15 to 20 minutes where they're just enjoying not dying. And then they start to, the needs kind of escalate. And then once they realize they can't, purchase food or beer, it started to slowly spike. Yeah. But it was everyone wasn't on that same realization train at the same time.
Gotcha.
So, yeah.
And I realize some of these stories might seem a little disconnected. We're talking about Costco. We're talking about a Phoenix soccer field. we're talking about the Florida hurricane, but I think the one through line, the thing connecting everything, is that what do you do when the system you have in place begins to fall apart? And how do you take care of your people?
Yeah, the people, right? The people are
Yeah.
going to be displaced temporarily. So like you kind of got to have some alternate strategies around, okay, how, where are my people going to sit?
Yeah.
Right? Like at our Roseville facility and our Sacramento facility, we do a lot of business continuity seats for people from the Bay Area, for example, like fires, earthquakes. They need to have continuous operations. People down in Sacramento area where they're in a floodplain,
Mhm.
like they need to have continuous operations. So in the event a disaster strikes them, they migrate. We have a couple stories about this. I think Redwood Credit Union during the Sonoma fires had to come out and maintain continuous operations and their business recovery suite. So we've done this for folks for a long time. I just think it's interesting that it's no longer the headquarters environment that you're concerned about. It's where your people are operating, right? So you got there's a typhoon for anyone who uses any workers out of the South Pacific. There's some weather going on out there that's hitting and impacting people who maybe use near shore resources in the South Pacific. So these weather incidents, these different disasters that could be going on, they could impact your environment. Not in your headquarters could be thousands of miles away.
That's a fantastic point. Wow, this was interesting. This conversation went all over the place. So thanks for joining me today, Adam, on the incident report. Anything coming up this week you're excited about?
So we had a great event last week with the Avant folks at Avant Special Forces. That was awesome. Everyone who got a chance to come out to Austin, that was fantastic. We're heading out to Nashville next week with our partner in Telesys for their Channel Connect event in Nashville, Tennessee. So that'll be fun. That's kind of my old stomping grounds. Yeah, going to be out there meeting with partners and things like that. So excited about our partnerships and things going on in our program, in our world. And then hope everyone stays safe this week with things going on down in Florida. But yeah, all good.
It's kind of an awkward pivot from talking about the hurricane in Florida, but Adam, our final segment is what is worth watching? What recommendations do you have for people?
Like I said, I'm behind on the dragons. I'm behind on the rings, but my treadmill consumption is Narcos, which
Nice.
by the way, running in the dark on a treadmill trying to read subtitles is a good way to stay focused. It's very good. You're focused, you're drilled in, your mind can't deviate a lot. You're reading, I'm not fluent in Spanish, so Narcos is a lot of subtitles, but going through the old Narcos library.
Nice. Love it. And I would say it came out about 10 years ago. I missed it completely. It was off my radar, but I highly recommend This Is the End. It's crass, it's crude, it's a hard R rating, but if you're okay with that and looking for comedy, This Is the End is fantastic.
That sounds good.
Adam and everybody listening, thank you so much for joining us for the Incident Report, and we will see you next Tuesday. Have an amazing week.
Thanks so much. Have a good week, everybody.
Thanks so much for listening. The Incident Report is brought to you by Quest Technology Management. With over 40 years of experience, Quest is a leading technology integrator working seamlessly with your staff and systems to achieve your IT goals. Learn more about everything they do at questsys.com. And if you have questions or suggestions for the podcast, you can always email Adam and myself at theincidentreport@questsys.com. We hope you have a great week, and we'll see you next time.